Today in Across the Fence, a one-of-a-kind harvest from a new crop of Vermonters. We'll show how a Bhutanese community in Burlington is teaching the teachers as they share their culture, farming know-how, and love of hard work with their fellow Vermonters. Good afternoon and thanks for joining us. I'm Judy Simpson. The Association for Africans Living in Vermont, or AALV, works with new Americans from all over the world to feel more at home in the Green Mountains. Through the program New Farms for New Americans, AALV provides access to community gardens, gardening resources, and education about starting a farm business. The program puts food on people's plates, offers a taste of home, and gives participants a sense of pride. So when a group of Bhutanese immigrants asked if they could grow rice in their new home, they were surprised by the answer and delighted with the results. Here's Across the Fence's Keith Silva with our story.
This is rice, and it's growing in Vermont.
It's not a joke, but it is very interesting.
This quarter-acre of rice in Burlington's Intervale is a pilot project of New Farms for New Americans. The program is sponsored by the Association of Africans Living in Vermont. The rice being grown here is a cold hardy Japanese variety that is well suited to Vermont's climate. University of Vermont Extension began working with New Farms for New Americans on this project in the spring.
For rice growing here in the Northeast, you do need to get a head start and plant the starts in the greenhouse at the beginning of the season. So we taught the growers how to maintain, how to manage the greenhouses. They led the way when it came to actually planting the rice starts in the greenhouse. We also worked a lot with the irrigation systems, with the water systems here. Water is obviously critical for flooded rice paddy production, so we did a lot of sort of repairs and maintenance on the irrigation systems, understanding how to use a gasoline generator pump to pump out of the river. And then we're also working through just the general agronomic variables of rice production, so whether or not it needs fertilizer, if so, what time of year does it make sense to spread it, what are the typical pests and disease challenges that we should all consider in efforts to boost yields and bring rice to the marketplace.
For all his knowledge about pests, pumps, and fertilizer, it may be Waterman who's learning the most.
They've been growing rice for generations, so they are teaching us a whole lot. We hope to be able to transfer some of that knowledge to other farmers here in the Northeast, so I look forward to that opportunity. It's building community. It's building that sense of pride and that sense of place, that sense of belonging here. So I really enjoy seeing that happen.
For the Bhutanese, rice is as much of a food as it is a cultural connection. Along with a lifetime of knowledge of how to grow rice, these farmers also continue the tradition of neighbor helping neighbor. Rita Neopani has been living in Burlington since 2010. For her, this small crop of rice is an invitation to her fellow Vermonters.
Our community wants to show them like how to grow rice in Vermont, in Burlington, and then like that's locally organic rice. And then we want to show to them like we are hard worker people.
Like Neopani, Saran Kitri is a native of Bhutan as well. He looks forward to the day when he can grow a lot more rice in his new home.
So it's about the community. This is very tiny. We did a trial, start with little. We are testing whether this variety grows here or not. Now it looks good. So if my community, helps me, we want to expand this to a lot bigger.
You know a lot about rice. You're very smart.
तपाईले धेरै धानको बारेमा जान्नु हुँदो रहेछ अरे. Yes, I know.
Bhutan is sandwiched between China and India on the eastern slopes of the Himalayan mountains. The climate of Bhutan is tropical in the south, but in the north, the valleys are hot in the summer and cold in the winters. For Indra Hadka, Vermont's weather feels familiar.
She likes Vermont. Very nice. Very quiet and peace place. She like it.
Is it like Bhutan at all?
Bhutan जस्तो छ अरे.
त्यस्तै हो अलिकति जाडो बेसी छ नभए त सेम
Little cold than Bhutan. This place is little colder than Bhutan, but it's similar.
Because this is a pilot project, the majority of the rice being harvested will be saved as seed. It's expected the yield from this quarter acre will be enough seed for 2 or 3 acres next year. Alesia Laramie is the coordinator of the New Farms for New Americans program.
It's like gold. You want to save it for the next year so that you can get a higher yield. So I think this year a small amount will be taken for folks within the community to eat. We're going to start testing some markets locally to see what kind of markets are out there and what kind of interest there is in terms of rice. And then with whatever's left over, which will probably be the bulk of what we harvest, we'll save to plant next year.
Laramie sees how this small amount of rice has a big impact when it comes to empowering this community of new farmers and new Vermonters.
I think the Rice Project has been a wonderful opportunity for members of the New American community to come to me and come to the program and say, this is what we're interested in doing, and for our program to be able to support this. It really makes for not just a community of New Americans, but a community outside of this community. So now we're reaching out to people all over Vermont and outside of Vermont too. And so I just think it's great for, I really like the partnerships that are starting to develop because of it.
Neopani couldn't be any happier with the new friends she's made in Vermont. In fact, she's looking forward to making even more friends. And of course, growing more rice.
We want to go bigger and bigger and bigger. We will get to know each other, and we connect with the land. And then we are doing an excellent job, like first time in Burlington, rice growing, and then people love it.
America has been called a nation of immigrants. New people in a new place, here to learn and here to teach. It's an ideal world in which everyone can grow. In Burlington, I'm Keith Silva with Across the Fence.
Well, thanks, Keith. I'm joined now by the coordinator for the New Farms for New Americans program, Alesia Laramie. Thanks so much for being with us.
Thanks for having me.
What was your first impression of the whole idea of growing rice?
As a program, we really try to support New Americans and their interests, and so rice is one of many specialty crops that we're helping New Americans to grow. So in addition to rice, we have all different kinds of other vegetables, and this is what's exciting about the rice in particular is that it's just grown on a larger scale. So we're trying to encourage whatever the New American population wants to grow and find land for them to do that.
Mm-hmm. Well, it sounds like there's a lot of energy behind this project.
Yeah, one of the great things about this project in particular was that it was a community of people that have come together. It's not necessarily individual plots of land, and I think that goes back to the way rice was grown in Bhutan, which is that while you might have your own 20 acres of rice, when it came to planting the rice and harvesting the rice, people would sort of move from land to land, and they would all go to one landowner's rice paddy for one day, plant, and then they would sort of circulate. And that's traditionally the way rice, at least rice growing, has been explained to me for folks. So it's not an individual thing, it's very much community-based.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so it's a lot labor-intensive.
It's very labor-intensive, and at least in the ways that they're familiar with, and we're only able to do those things right now. We don't have the infrastructure and money to buy some of the machinery that goes along with it. So when it comes to planting, it requires everybody to come out and do the planting and harvesting, and then all the different stages of the rice growing. Yeah.
And we should probably point out that there were a lot more people involved than just the few people that we saw today on the screen.
Yeah, we've had, people have come in and out of the program at different times. while we had some people that were involved in irrigating or watering the rice starts every day in the greenhouse, and then there were people that were flooding the paddy every day, and then there were other people that came just for the planting and some people that came just for the harvesting. So we didn't always have the same members of the community, and then on the big days we made lots of phone calls and people just came out, so it was really nice.
And so the rice was harvested in September. What's happened since then?
Well, the rice, after the harvest, we've been storing it at our greenhouse and we're waiting. We'd like to work with another farmer in Vermont who has the equipment to get the husks off at the last stage of the process before it can be eaten. Yeah.
I know nothing about that, so I guess it's a learning process.
As for me as well, I don't know that much about rice. They're teaching me.
And how did New Farms for New Americans program get started?
The program, started originally as more of a social program for women with children, a lot of women who were who had been resettled in Vermont and had children, but were having a harder time getting outside of the home and interacting with other folks. And so it was a gardening program as much as a social activity. And but the program has really shifted since it started. So it's had some focus on marketing, but where it is right now is we're really trying to focus in on subsistence size plots. So providing land access so that members of the New American community can grow vegetables in the quantities with the acreage that they're more familiar with, since so many of them come with subsistence style farming backgrounds. And we've tried a little bit to connect them with community gardens locally in Burlington and Winooski, but what we find is it's just not enough land. So from feedback that we've received from participants, they keep telling us, we need more land, we need more land. I can't grow enough to feed my family. And there's so much knowledge in terms of just producing all season long and then saving whatever you've grown through the winter. And there's a lot of knowledge in terms of preservation as well. So as a program, we're really trying to help people extend the season and provide land access in the quantities that they want. Yeah.
And so what are some of the challenges associated with the New Farms for New Americans program?
Well, one is finding enough land for people, at least locally. I mean, they could move somewhere else in Vermont, but when you're a New American and you've been resettled here, there's so many challenges, and having the infrastructure of a city like Burlington and Winooski, that's really been shifting, its school, its education and everything to understand the population. So nobody's moving outside of Chittenden County at this point, really. And so finding urban size plots, yeah, that's one of the challenges. But also, working in a cross-cultural environment, it's a challenge, but it's also one of the real joys of, the job that I have. And for example, with the rice harvest, we harvested the rice, and then there's been a lot of discussions about, well, what do we do with this rice now that we've harvested it? And since it's a community of people that have come together, they have to decide collectively, what do we do with this rice? It's not one farmer saying, okay, well, I've harvested it and now I'm going to go send it to market. It's everybody saying, well, how much do we want to keep? And these conversations take a very, very long time to have, and to make sure that everyone's voice is heard. And one of the things that came out from these ongoing meetings and conversations is that they understand that the program has been able to provide them a lot of assistance, and so they feel that they owe the program something in return. And so through many meetings, we've been trying to break down that sort of, not miscommunication, but the cultural difference is that you don't owe us anything. At one point, they had tried to give us all the rice that they had harvested.
Right.
And that we don't, as a program, no, we're here to support your endeavors and to help you see, but you don't owe us anything in return, And so that's kind of the
learning curve.
Yeah, for everyone. Yeah.
Well, I want to thank you for joining us today. If you would like more information about the New Farms for New Americans program or the Association for Africans Living in Vermont, you can visit the website at www.aalv/vt.org, or you can call them at 802-985-3106. That's our program for today. I'm Judy Simpson. We'll see you again next time on Across the Fence.
For a video copy of today's program, call toll-free 1-888-ATF-3430. Across the Fence is brought to you as a public service by University of Vermont Extension and WCAX-TV.